these invisible words, they come like wave. Sometimes it's like the little and very like soft wave, but sometimes it can come like tsunami as well. Very destructive. The way to move on, first thing is to embrace every past version of us that was stuck in those traumatic experiences.
Because it's inside of that person. So it's just that person who have the responsibility and also the full control of the right to change it, to win it.
And you're not alone. If you're going through tough times, if you're going through busy, stressful days, knowing that, there will be brighter days ahead.
Today, I'm not here alone. Since the end of 2024, I remember this marks the second time I've done a collab episode. And guess what? Our guest today is once again Thinh, Mr. Thinh, one of my former managers, and also now he is one of my close friends and mentors. We always find ourselves sharing a lot of things from career stuff to also daily life. Welcome Thinh. Or to be more exact, welcome back again to my podcast. It's an honor to have you here today with me. Could you please, again, introduce yourself to our listeners, please?
Yeah, sure, Win. It's a pleasure to be here, be a part of your podcast. I'm Thinh, currently living in Bangkok, is a Vietnamese expat. Maybe a little bit about my background, just to, set the tone and set the mood for this whole podcast. So currently I'm living in Bangkok, working in a job that allows me to work in an international environment where I'm connected to people from many backgrounds. And I think that last time when we were together, we talked about games, and it was like 15 months ago, right?
I think it is like the end of 2024, so it's been a year and a half since then. So actually, I'm a bit curious. Can you tell us that you're still playing games?
Oh, I do. I would say it's kind of like a habit that I've been maintaining ever since I was a kid.
So actually, playing games is not changing in your life. You're still playing it. So another question. So what is the biggest change in your life since then?
I think that I have been more patient, I guess. Because whenever I do something, I also try to pour a little bit of my emotions into it. So that, I want to feel the rush when the game is heating up and adrenaline rush. There's some turn in the game, you're a little bit anxious and you try to turn the tide and something like that. Yeah, I kind of put my emotions into it, but nowadays I feel like I'm more control in the amount of emotions that I pour into the games. In the past, when I lost the game, it felt terrible. And to be honest, it's kind of like at some point, I took it very personally. I feel bad about myself losing a game, even though it was just a game. But now it feels like it's just a game. It's not like I really fail in doing something. It's easier to feel like we learn something from our failures. We understand why we failed. And kind of there are some lesson learned after each match or each game that we fail as well. Whether it's winning or losing, I know why it happened. I understand the mechanism before each winning or losing. So it feels easier to accept, even though it's a very big failure. I say, yeah.
Understood. Listen to you, I'm thinking that it's not just only about game, right? Because you lose a game just like when you lose some project or you lose a pitching for something like that. And also this reaction can be also adapted to all of other aspects in life. Do you think like that?
Yeah, it's true. There is something about me I've been wanting to develop and maybe being more mature, I guess. And you're right, not just life, but at work, maybe in relationships. Relationships here, it can be romantic relationship, but it can also be with friends, with family and stuff. Something like that as well. So I would say that not that I become colder, but more like if something bad happened, I feel myself calmer. I try to take a step back. Actually, if something bad happened, I would just take it slow. take a deep breath, or if I felt like something that raised an overwhelming feeling inside of me, I would try to distance myself a little bit, try to calm myself down, put myself in a very thoughtful state to think it through and to avoid react in an uncontrolled manner. Because I understand as well, like, that with any unthoughtful action or word, there will be consequences.
So listen to you, I think about when we play in games, also like you said, for relationships of families, friends, or daily decisions also, there will be some kind of frictions that will be happen, like conflicts between us and others. Also, there's some conflicts inside of ourselves, and you've been calmer, like to solve those conflicts, right?
Yeah, calmer in the way that I welcome things. I would say that not that I'm old enough or experienced enough to to experience everything. There are things that I couldn't predict, things that I didn't know, things that are new to me as well. But it's just that easy to put myself in a thinking state, to assess things before taking action. It's actually during these moments I realize, there are voices speaking inside my head. The one voice is the old me. I kind of like reacted right in that moment, immediately to any kind of like occurrence that happened. I didn't think much back then, and that was one voice, the one that will take in action immediately, the one that will urge me to do something. And the other voice, which is like, you should, step out of it a little bit, watch, think about like what is happening in the background, why it comes to me this way, why it's happening this way. And then I realized that, yeah, there are voices like that. There are reasons why these voices come to me. But sometimes, it kind of make me feel struggled, tired as well. Because depending on the situation, in some situation, these voices, there is an end to it. But there are some situation or conflicts, it just happened inside my head. There's no way to put an end to it.
Agree.
And it's actually these continuous or non-ending conflict. It actually like makes me like suffocated. In the past, sometimes I just put them away. And then something else happened. I don't really get it why, it kind of like having the same patterns. It kind of like put me into the old situation. And it feels like there's some kind of wars happening in my head. And this seems never ending. I think if there is a word, I will call this situation, I will call them the invisible wars. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting actually, because like when we mentioned about war or invisible war, I feel like it has a lot of dimensions and directions. For example, if we directed that outward, can be seen as conflicts with others, like we just have said, struggles with families, friends, colleagues, everyday frictions. It can also be a battle against the life circumstances or daily decisions, small thing, what to do, what to choose, or what is right, what is wrong, right? That is ours. But when we turn the lens inwards, like you just have shared, it becomes something that I believe happens to literally everyone. I think like the war or the conflicts, the struggle within yourself. So that is exactly what you've just mentioned. I think that all of those chaotic thoughts and questions that haunted you will create somehow like endless nights, right? Because sometimes for me myself, I also experience those things, and sometimes I just sit in my room and lie down and looking at the ceiling. So it's quite funny. If others people look at me or look at you, for example, they will say, why, what happened for you, like why you be like that? But actually inside of us we have that kind of invisible wall that just we know. So I've got a little bit of curious that Could you lean into that for a moment and share more some examples from your old journey? For example, like I just shared that, okay, sometimes I've locked myself in the dark night and look at the ceiling, something like that. Can you share more examples from your old journey, please?
This kind of like, conflict or war, or I say the invisible wars, feel like there's no winning, there's no losing. It just keeps on happening. And maybe sometimes those that we are fighting is actually ourselves. And you mentioned a point, like those conflicts or those wars, sometimes it comes from other people. Even though that like the sources of those kind of wars or conflict, they are the external factors, I would say they are somehow linked to ourselves, linked to our past as well. The way that we see the situation or the way that we internalize the situation, they are not just about us in conflict with other people, but sometimes we can see that it's a conflict with ourselves as well, how we read the situation and why we feel like we are stuck in this kind of conflict, and why we feel like this thought, these ideas, this conversation, some words feel so offending, negative. But I don't exclude the fact that sometimes people, like they do use some words that are offending, negative. But at the same time, like, in a very normal context, why we feel trigger inside of us, like something that is not right, and why we feel something that makes us feel uncomfortable, put us in that loophole, and we think about it so many times, put us back into that invisible world. There's some situation, some occurrence. I mean, like someone says something to us, someone did something to us, but like it just. But there is no intention behind it. But to us, we felt like, why did these people say that to me? Why did this act makes me realize something? And usually, when we think about these works or action, it's somehow connected to our deeper to the back of our mind, where we are like maybe hurt. But at the same time, like I shared with you, they just said it out without any negative intention at all. They just said it, and they just did it sometimes, and probably they didn't mean anything behind that. But sometimes we just overthink.
True.
Yeah, maybe we can share a little bit like the definition of overthinking. Thanks to Cambridge Dictionary Merriam-Webster, so overthinking is the act of thinking about something too much or too long, in a way that it becomes unhelpful or more harmful rather than useful.
So exactly.
Yeah.
Great. When you mentioned about the we taking something that too personally, I've just remember of the book that is 4 Agreements. Actually, I mentioned about this book already on my podcast. Inside of those 4 agreements, there is one agreement which is I don't remember so clearly, but like don't take it personally. Don't take anything personally. For example, people said that is because that is the people ideas. It's not you, it's not yourself, or it's not your essence. It's just other people's idea. So when you're talking about that, I immediately remember of those agreements. And I think it's also very true, because sometimes the invisible war inside of you will be like somehow is you are the one who created. Like some of the factors outside yourself, you put that into yourself, and then you create the world yourself. So I think there is a lot of, not example, but somehow we can tell that is an invisible war, like overthinking, like you just have said, or take something too personally, like we just talk about the book. Or for me, sometimes I think the war inside of me is mostly self-doubt, because everybody will have a turning point, right? Changing job, or choosing the career, or choose what not to do and what to do. So whenever I stand at a turning point, I will like find myself trapped in the loop of wondering, am I actually capable of this? So I always keep doubting myself like that. And the anxiety is always like go around me. Yet at the end of the day, I've learned that, okay, we have to carry that fear and do it anyway. I know that, okay, I still not so confident, but I have to do it anyway. So that is actually the wall that I find myself being trapped in most of the time.
Yeah, I think that I mentioned the conversation that happened in my head when I play game. Like it's actually still happening. In the past, whenever I step into, especially when I was playing with a friend, someone that I'm close to, I was afraid that if I lost the game, I would make my friend feel like not good. Yeah, I didn't want to upset him. I think that I try too hard. Yeah, that I try too hard. I put too many emotions, but more like, anxiety that I would lose. It triggered a lot of things. Self-doubt, as you mentioned, is one of it. It also triggers shame. And at some points when the losing streak is too many, like three losing games straight or something like that, is somewhat escalated into hatred, like self-hatred. Like I hated myself for losing the game. But now I would say that I'm more in observation mode. Like I know that these thoughts are running inside my head, but I managed to put it in a more analytical kind of point of view. And I think that I'm calmer. And in the end, if it's a winning game, perfect, then it's nice. But if it's losing, sometimes I'm just like, okay, the opponent team just played too well. They really outplayed us. We cannot win against them with our current capacity, I say. Yeah, it's more like understanding the situation so that it doesn't come to any form of like self-hatred, like taking something personally. No. But, and at the same time, I realized that, whether it's winning or losing, I would just take ownership of whatever happened, admitted that I did it my best, not to blame my teammates, and not trying to take control over things that are not within my control. So we are losing. Maybe that's it. Let's accept that we are not that good to compete against them. And maybe in the next game, we try to play better.
Yeah. I cannot love this idea more because like when you're talking about the games thing, I'm thinking about sometimes we just control ourselves and cannot control others, and also cannot control the outcomes of something, not only just a game. But I've heard that you said about a keyword, which is observation mode. Like you said that you are more like on the observation mode, which is you can see more clearly about your thoughts, your feelings, or even your invisible war is now become not so invisible anymore, right? So there's a saying that like naming the problem is half the battle, which is when you're recognizing the problem, this is the very first step towards solving it already. I think, you cannot fix what you don't acknowledge. So now we realize that, okay, like for me, for example, I realize, okay, sometimes I have self-doubt, something like that. I could, proactively find ways to overcome it. So based on what we've just discussed, I think now people can see clearer the picture, the signs of someone is fighting this invisible war already. But the question is, what comes next? Like, I know that I have this kind of invisible war. I know that, I quite overthinking about that, something like that. I realized my problem already. But once we realize, there is a storm inside us, and we genuinely want a change, not just realize it and put it there forever untouched, but we want to change it. So how do we actually navigate it? Because I saw that when you share, I think that you already overcome some of your invisible war already. So to put it in another way, for example, if you were speaking to someone currently trapped in these exact struggles, easier. It's me, for example. I come into you. I have these kind of struggles, and I came to you and I said, oh my god, Anton, how should I overcome this situation? How come I win this war inside of myself? So how can you give some of your advices?
Okay. First thing is I will say navigate your expectation first. Those kind of wars, they will not go away. I mean, like, they will come back. But to set the expectation here, I will say that kind of like we know a way to make it quiet, make it less loud, make it take less space. I would say it's like the sickness. The symptoms are very visible. You know, the real cause is something hidden. And the conflict, this invisible war, works the same way. I think the turning point here for me is that I try to, every time when this invisible war just becomes louder in my head, I will ask myself like, okay, war, why you happened? I felt triggered. But what is the trigger? Is it connected to something? Any trauma, any past experiences that are uncomfortable, that stay in my subconscious mind, something that's unprocessed, something that I didn't really sit with myself to really process, to really overcome. Did I talk to myself about these traumas, these painful experiences in the past that make me trigger because something similar is happening to me at the present? So I would say it's kind of like my personal progress. Sometimes some people, they will keep these processes that happening in their head to themselves. Some will bring to their friends for help, or maybe not help, but more like, just to talk about it, to somewhat let it out of their chest. But I will say, talking to your friends, put your problems into word, say it out, or even, write it down on a book. I think this method is called like journal. It's one way for you to start being mindful about what is going on in your head or in your mind. It's good that you bring this to someone else, like having a second mind that look into what is happening to you. But your friends, I would say, they're not your doctors. They may not be your psychiatrists or therapists who can help you to, solve whatever is happening in your head. Whatever is happening in your head is yours alone. This is, I would say, these invisible wars are the lonely wars. That's just ourselves there. Friends, they can try to see into our work, especially that those who know us well. But they are not you to understand the full pictures. Only you are in your work to know every corner, know what is happening. Only you know what is contained in your head. And whatever you share with your friends, they may be just a piece or a corner of things in your head. It's not the whole world inside your head. And for therapy as well, I understand that there will be some expectation that if I stuck in this thought, I become very depressed, I become overthink about something. I think about it a lot, and it happened to me so frequently now, it's getting very overwhelming. I cannot stand this. I need to go to see therapists, psychiatrists to solve this problem to the core. So the expectation is that the therapists, psychiatrists are the one to cure. I would say that please limit it to the expectation that they are the one who give us the guidelines. They are there to give us instruction as we like sit back and then retraces our memories and things. When we try to like cone up the memories or cone up the experiences, they are there to give us the guide. They are there to help us navigate through our problems, not that they give us the cure. So that's the thing.
I couldn't agree more, actually, because even though I ask you the question, and please give my advice if I come to you to have you as a listener. But to completely honest, I've been called an asshole before. Sorry for the word, but it's true. I'm that person who always asks for tons of advice. I will collect the advice for many aspects. But at at the end of the day, I would address it all and just choose what fits me best. Because I agree with you that the invisible world inside of a person, because it's inside of that person, so it's just that person who have the responsibility and also the full control of the right to change it, to win it. So I also believe that only that person can find the right answers for ourselves, make the final call, and take full responsibility for it, actually. Yeah. And also, when you're talking about the trauma or something that happened very long time ago, for example, it reminds me of an earlier episode that I did before, which is I talk about the superiority and inferiority complexes. So in that episode, I also introduced a concept. Actually, not I introduced, but it's in a book, a Chinese book, and it's called Xin Sui. So actually, it's a Chinese phrase, but when we translate it, we can think it as the heart acupoint, like that exact point in your heart. So it's just like the Achilles heel. So it presents the deepest insecurity or the very inside the core wound a person carries from their past. And that kind of things will silently shape their thoughts and actions ever since. So when you're talking about that, I immediately remind me about that. The sins, the heart acupoint things. And I truly believe, it's true that only when we can map out that sins and we face it and heal it, so then we can solve the puzzle. So I think that you can share more about the process, because you said that you have process of therapy, right? So it's not easy to trace back and not easy to go back to the very far away, like in the past, and fight those heart acupoint, those sins. So can you share more about the process or the journey that you've known from the therapy?
So just like you said, and every kind of like insecurities, every kind of anxiety, depression, thoughts that we cannot seem to move on from originate from something that happened in the past, from the past traumatic experiences. There's no other way to really move on from them, but to actually re-access to these memories. And I would say they are the core memories behind. And if I can share a little bit about my process, I will say I just recall that there is this one time when I shared that I felt burdened. I felt a lot of weight on my shoulder, and I felt lonely because I was alone. And it feels like the whole world is on my shoulder, and why there's no one to help. It feels like why life is not fair, that why I have to handle all of this alone, why it has to be me. So I would say that I sat with my therapist, and we tried to connecting, going through the incidents that happened, the key words that were repeated in the way that I share my story. And then we unfolded things layers by layers. It was not an easy process, and it took a lot of energy. But the thing is that I wanted to. I had this willingness to really get to know why it happened. And then I recall that I touched this memory, and I didn't know that why this memory came to my mind vividly, like it was just yesterday. I didn't realize why. And I had this, vision inside my head for such a long time that I didn't re-access it. So basically, this lonely or like a vulnerable experience, I linked back to the experience when I felt cornered in this room at my old house. I just remember that back at the moment, maybe it was the first time in my life that I felt so cornered. I didn't know what to do. Hopeless. I remember I was screaming in my head saying can somebody just help me to get through this situation, because I didn't know what to do. Then my therapist, she told me this. Thinh, if you have a word, if you want to say something to this version of you, what would you say? Would you give this version of you a hug? And I just recall like the image inside my mind is that I hugged this version of myself. I gave him a very big hug and I told him that you should know how tough you are dealing with all of this alone. For this young boy to process and went through all of this, you are really tough and courage already. You are not small and you are not hopeless, but you are just being responsible. You just didn't have the right support that you needed. And then it was very healing for my therapist to say that, maybe told him that you are with him. You're not alone in this journey, that now the older you, the mature version of you is with you. Embrace this younger version of myself. I just remember that when I opened my eyes, there were tears. I cried a lot. I slept a lot after that as well because that session was a heavy one. But I think that moment and that session was very like, whatever came out of that session was very transformative. I felt happy. It kind of like set some part of me free as well. And you know, like whenever something that kind of like puts me at the corner at the present days, I stopped doubting myself. I stopped telling that maybe I'm not competent enough to, you know, get through all of this. But more like you are trying the best that you can. You are giving it everything you got. And that's it. I accept the result.
Actually, when I heard your story, I remember of. Do you know the Ho'oponopono? This is like how can I say? It's a practice, a prayer of Hawaiian. Recently, I didn't practice this a lot, but in the past, like when I was very struggling with job, something like that, I practiced a bit of the Ho'oponopono, and actually that is the 4 mantras. So the 4 mantras is very easy, very simple, which is I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. So this is just 4 simple phrases, but back to those time when I practice this, I don't know why, but I always imagine my smaller version of me. I don't know, maybe because my imaginary is way too good, but I remember that I saw that small girl sitting near the lake or in the forest, I think, because I love forest and gardening, something like that. And I see my bigger version of me coming to that smaller version of myself and hug her, very empathizing, and say these kind of 4 mantras on loop, like I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, on loop. And maybe if other people will say, this is very easy, why you feel so emotional? But after those kind of practice, I feel really emotional actually. I close my eye and practice these 4 mantras, seeing myself hugging the smaller version of me, and every time it's give me a very emotional state of mind. I feel very related when you sharing the story of that section when you at the therapy.
Yeah, and it's not just about bad memories, but I think there is a practice that I did to also navigate which memories that makes me happy, that makes me feel calm as well, to know that life is still very enjoyable. I managed to access this memory when I was 10 years old. And that moment was just before summertime, like the semester was coming to a close. We finished the final exams. The result came out very good. And I just remember it was the last week of the semester before summer. I think that is the moment I really felt the freedom. Zero expectation, to be honest. And what I remember the most was me in the schoolyard during the recess time. And it was after the rain. So in the air, there's this, like this kind of like, like the earthy smell after the rain. And then in the schoolyard, there were trees, like the earthy smell under the shades of the tree after the rain. Everything felt very like cool, refreshing, and I felt freedom. Yeah, and every time that I felt heavy, anxious, I try to recall this memory. it set me off. Or maybe not really set me off, but for a moment, I felt like the weight is off my shoulder. I felt like I could be this kid again, savoring the freedom, savoring the good performance record. Yeah, something like that. It was very nice, comforting, liberating, even for a moment to go back to that memory. So yeah, therapy kind of like helps me retrieve or re-access those kinds of memories as well. And it was not just recollecting those that trigger our emotions, that drive us into some negative states, but also to re-access the memories that makes us feel good. At the very moment, I can be this version of 32 years old me. I can be that younger me who was stuck in the room feeling cornered. And also I can be playful as the younger 10 years old version of me again. So it feels whole. It feels complete to be me. Yeah.
This is mind blowing because when you trace back to your memory, it's not just only letting you know the root cause of your invisible world, but somehow it's also give you the weapons, like your good memories will be the weapons for you put it on, and you can be brave and be stronger to win your war. So it's very balanced, right?
Yeah.
Both negative and positive memories can also affect you, the nowadays you. Yeah, it's very cool.
And to be honest, to be mindful is like to be able to navigate in your mind this volume panel. Do you know the volume panel that they have in the studio? You can adjust the voices. Mindfulness, to me, it's like we know how to play with this volume panel. I will turn the screaming sound, or I will turn this stressful sound smaller, and I will leave room for the other like healing sound. I will turn the healing sound a bit louder to feel more balance and to feel like our mind is not completely filled with just the loud and negative voices or those that are uncomfortable to us. But it's also to know that we can also make noise for the healing, comfortable and playful voices to play when we feel uncomfortable.
So cool. So just a question. So as of now, has the war inside you finally stopped? Or I think it's more like an ongoing battle where you have to constantly have to stay mindful, like you said, to listen to yourself, to on the observation mode and spot the negative thoughts and then heal them like continuously.
Like I shared before, the war, they may not disappear forever. Seeking help or seeking professional help is like preparing yourself when it returns. These invisible words, they come like wave. Sometimes it's like the little and very like soft wave, but sometimes it can come like tsunami as well. Very destructive and very powerful. But the idea of having these kinds of tools or, to be mindful is that to have yourself imagine yourself is a statue before this wave. Even if it comes as a tsunami, you don't crash, you don't fall, you will still stand there. You navigate yourself through it. And maybe it's also the way to turn the tsunami into something that is less harmful, to really avoid the expectation that the war will end. No, for me, the war, they will not end. They will come back. But it's just that we are more prepared. We know how to protect ourselves when it happens. We know how to take a step back, put ourselves into the observation mode, seeing what is happening inside our head. I'm feeling this. Oh, this anxiety is happening again. This anxiety is growing inside my head. This thought, this self-hatred, it is coming, it's growing. Why is it happening? I think this is the progress that I have. Like I question it, and I'm aware that it's taking more space in my brain.
Okay, I completely agree that the invisible world is better. Somehow, this is like ongoing lifelong battle that every one of us must experience. Maybe for some it's like bigger and harder to cope with, but for someone else it's easier for them. So they cannot see that war also. Like I know that a lot of people they feel very happy all the time. I think they also have their war, but they can beat it very easily. Not just like some other people, they will take it more serious. But yeah, I also believe that these kind of inner conflicts are somehow is a very beautiful catalyst for our growth in life. Because I just imagine that without all of these wars, all of these conflicts, without all of these loneless night and seeing things, I will just simply stagnate and cannot move. So I think if we don't have the war inside of ourselves, we will stay in exactly where we are. It's the friction that will forces us to evolve day by day, time by time, and also war by war. Yeah, I think like that.
Then congratulate you, because process of relieving or stay with the thoughts and something like that. Yeah, iconic reflection. Having the courage to deal with that. This is also like one step in the journey of being mindful. The idea here is that sometimes we let it in, but in the past for me, it was very difficult to let it go. I let it take over me. I let it stay for too long and it becomes somewhat depression. These days it's easier to know that, okay, emotion, you're a guest, you come, I let you go inside my mind. Maybe we will sit with each other a little bit, couple of minutes, and then I let you go. And in the end of the day, this kind of like occurrence, these invisible wars, they're actually not something monstrous or foreign, but it's actually a version of ourselves. And this version, or the stories or the memories, they are shaped by our traumatic experiences. So like I share, the way to move on, first thing is to embrace every past version of us that was stuck in those traumatic experiences. To know that we were not perfect and there's nothing really wrong about us. And I would say that I tried to embrace even the imperfect part, the wounded part of myself, so that all of the, if anything that happened, I will not navigate it towards myself, who is the cause. And maybe some people may be offending to us, the blaming pattern, the words that feel offending. And I remember I read somewhere people say that whatever we say or whatever we do, our words, our spoken words and our action are the mirrors of our inner world, of our mind. Sometimes people don't mean what they say because there is an invisible war that happened inside of them as well. And we never know. We never know that maybe they are like us. Like they said something and actually in the end of the day they really feel bad about what they said or what they did. And maybe they also have sleepless nights looking at the ceiling just as us. Maybe someone else is also struggling as well. So whenever we receive this kind of signals or action or word and we know that it's not us to blame, then try not to take it personally, but more to see why they have to resort to something that is blaming, accusing, and out of their ordinary manner. Something like that. I believe that they are fighting their wars as well. Their actions and words are just coming from the wounded part of themselves. And probably they need help rather than a very impulsive reaction from us saying that, why are you blaming me? Like, do you not see your fault as well? Because to be honest, I don't think that it's always the right way to solve the situation. By doing that, blaming back and forth, it would just escalate the whole thing. So being mindful here is know that someone else is also going through something. And I realized that the more that I get to know myself, the more that I feel like, wow, so you can do this as well. You're interesting. Okay, let's learn more about you and your capabilities. Let's, try to know myself more, try to explore myself more, try to put myself through some challenges to really explore the potentials, try to reach the maximum capabilities of myself. Yeah, that is like, I would say, how mindfulness has helped me so far.
You look like your best friend now. You be your own best friend. You can be the encourager for your own. Yeah.
But for sure, I cannot be always like calm. But I just say that it's easier to put myself in a calm state. Yeah, I still feel moody sometimes. I still feel emotional sometimes.
We are human.
Yeah, we are human. Like, not that I become colder, less emotional, but it's just that I know how to navigate my effort and I know how to navigate my emotions so that I try not to escalate the heat of the situation. Or I would say to know how to react so that we didn't walk out of the conversation with a big conflict, a big question mark, or a hatred inside someone else's mind. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. So actually, I think today conversation is deep, but it's very, how can I say, it's like a treasure, because I think the conversation today can help someone out there understand themselves better and also have more insights for some things that we can call like the invisible war, and also find the strength to face their own war, because they can see that, okay, everybody have that, you have, me have that also, so we can gain more collective strength to solve the problems inside of us. And thank you so much for the conversation. It's not so hard because we make it like daily life conversation, so I very appreciate that. And yeah, thank you again, and I think that we can start looking forward to our third collaboration, our third topics actually.
Thank you so much for this conversation. And I admit that, at some parts along this conversation, I was really emotional because, it was like I tried to reaccess some memories again to make this conversation something really comes from my heart. Yeah, because like you said, this conversation may go out there. People who feel like they're stuck, if they're going through something like us, maybe they know that they are not alone. They know that someone else is also fighting this war as well. And we are fighting those war together, and not in the same war fighting toward the same enemy, but more like we are doing something that is similar to each other. We have our own struggle to go through. And yeah, you're not alone. And if you need help, or if you feel like it's becoming too much, seek your friends for advice. Seek professional help if it's getting too serious. It's a turning point for development, like being mindful, understand ourselves more, explore our inner world. And I'm really thankful for this conversation. And I appreciate it for anyone who listened to this. I hope you find something peaceful after listening to this podcast episode as well. And if you're going through tough times, if you're going through busy, stressful days, knowing that, there will be brighter days ahead. There will be moments that you can actually relate to and feel better. There will be a future ahead of you. It's not a closed door. It's not the end of the world. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and hope everyone can have the good time and also finally win their wars.